Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today I'm gonna see how much it cost Richie to get to holler at me. We're gonna review Monty Can't Buy Me Love, and of course, joining me, as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I feel like we've been trying to record this episode for a millennia, and it's finally come. I've had to watch this episode almost as many times as I've watched any other episode. I've been mentally preparing for Mr. Burns, so Mr. Burns' voice will be terrible, but I can't wait to talk about Monty Can't Buy Me Love. Oh, I have to throw it back to you. I forgot how we do this, man. It's been a while.
Or I was just going to let you talk about it since you're so excited.
Oh, okay. I mean, we got all kinds of stuff going on in this one. We've got mythical creatures that still live in Springfield somewhat for a few minutes. And then we have the possibility that Homer's not supposed to be allowed back in Vegas, but gets to go back to Vegas at the end. So there's plenty to talk about in this one. So I guess we should get started. Let me throw it back to you. The man, the myth, the Macarena monster himself. It is Miles.
I can jam to that song. I know the dance.
Yes, it was very popular in our time.
So yeah, we are talking about Monty Can't Buy Me Love today, which originally aired on May 2nd, 1999. This one did have the chalkboard gag. I have never been there nor done that. And this one, we hit a couch gag that we have not seen in some time at this point. It is all the way back from the Mike Reese and Al Jean era of the show, where they do the extended like dance line circus like chorus thing going on with all the showroom dancers and everything. It's notably used when an episode is running short on time.
Yep, that made me think that exactly when I saw it.
Oh, and they absolutely own up to that in the director's commentary, which did feature for this episode Mike Scully, Ian Maxtone Graham, Matt Selman, George Meyer, Ron Hauge, and the writer of this episode, Richie, John Swartzwelder, was not in attendance.
Of course. So close.
Every time. I'll go ahead and just say right up at the top of this episode, the only thing I have written on my notes from the commentary is also at IMDb, so it's relatively useless at this point. It's the main billionaire character in this episode is based on Richard Branson, and it's all based on an article they read about Thrillionaires, and I'm going to talk more about that when we get there, but they even admitted, Mike Scully himself called out this commentary as being lackluster, and they mostly just sat there and watched the episode without saying too much. I think everybody is really feeling the tired from working on both The Simpsons show and The Simpsons movie at this point in their life cycle.
That's not good enough.
I do like Mike Scully literally just called him out. He's like, I do have some trivia here. And it was like this like bad Simpsons trivia, basically. So I will not be much referring to the director's commentary moving forward, but the notable aspect of this is a John Swartzwelder episode, and it shows, I think, in the quality and just the style of the script.
Yeah, it's, I guess I could see that it's his, but at the same time, a little outlandish at times, so it makes sense, but I would not have guessed necessarily that it's a Swartzwelder script.
I think especially when you get into the third act with, like, Nessie coming back to Springfield and all that stuff, I think that's where it really shows more than anywhere.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
We get another Simpsons time manipulation tactic to open up the show, where we see the Simpsons are actually watching TV. They're watching a show called Cash In Your Legacy, which is very much a parody of like an Antiques Roadshow type of show. We actually see Mo, the bartender, who is very excited because the appraiser is letting him know that he's got what's called a gentleman's beer tap that dates back way to the turn of the century and remarkably seems to have never been washed.
Yeah, I've been meaning to wash that, but it's been such a century.
The appraiser goes on to explain, I'd expect this to bring $20,000 to $30,000, except that on the handle, somebody seems to have carved Homer rocks.
And I do. Woo!
And the value goes from way, way up into the, what would that be, 5-digit range, all the way down to an appraisal value of $15.
I'm gonna kill him.
Mo is actually, losing it in mind. He turns around and grabs Skinner's antique gun that he was there to get appraised. But as Mo gets it and essentially starts to, position it to fire it, the gun just disintegrates into dust.
Ah, jeez.
Marge walks in on this, and Homer's oblivious to the fact that he just ruined his, friend's riches, by the way. He's just, really excited about the fact that he does, in fact, rule.
Yeah, and to clarify, Homer was watching through the TV, so, Mo and Homer weren't actually in the same room.
Right,
so
Mo would have had a long walk to think about how or where he wanted to shoot Homer.
Must kill Homer. Whee!
Marge walks into the family room and basically declares, I don't know how you can all just lay around the house on a nice day like this. When was the last time we went out for a good old-fashioned family walk?
Stop those when the kid said I was too fat to carry.
So Marge encourages them all to get up and go and quit being lazy, but Bart replies, I'm not lazy, I'm just, Lisa, finish my sentence for me.
Why don't you finish your own darn?
And Lisa literally, falls asleep and kind of slides off the couch. Fine! If we're not going for a walk, we'll just talk about our day. I wrote another poem about a duck.
And they decide to go for a walk.
You immediately, flash cut, you're on the walk already. But also, we can already see that Homer's already asking if they can go home yet, because his feet hurt, and all the fresh air is making his hair move. I don't know how much longer I can complain.
And then one of my favorite quotes, that again, it's another thing that I never realized was from season 10, but I use it in an everyday life all the time, is Barney drives by in the car and yells, "Get a horse!" And I do that to people all the time, especially at my job. I'm in a higher position where I can actually drive one of the golf carts around. So when people are walking out to work and I drive by them and I know them and I want to be a jerk, I yell, "Get a horse!" at them all the time. It makes my day.
Oh, you're gonna win Boss of the Year in no time.
Absolutely.
I love Homer's response. So he's like, "Can we, Marge? Can we? Can we get a horse?"
Well, we were talking about ducks earlier with Marge, man. Do you know what ducks smoke?
Is this one of you classic Richie joke?
Do you know what ducks smoke?
What do ducks smoke, Richie?
Quack.
Ah, quack kills.
All right. Marge says that they're walking, Homer.
Homer is like, okay, we can't get a horse. So he immediately starts to negotiate. There's some dogs. We could all ride dogs.
Get it, Homer. No one's riding any.
And then she's cut off when Bart actually does ride by on a dog, yelling, "Hi-ho, Silver! Away!"
And then it goes in a circle and knocks him off.
It's like chasing its tail and bucks Bart off the dog.
Yeah.
But Marge is excited to show the family some of her favorite places. Like, for instance, there's the store where I buy my yarn. But you don't want to buy your buttons there.
And then Homer's like, "Woo, close one."
Well, I dodged that bullet. But then just next door, now there's where you buy your buttons, and that's where the bookmobile lady used to live.
If you love me, you'll kill me.
That's Bart pleading to his father.
I'm sorry, that house that the bookmobile lady used to live in looks exactly like Skinner's house to me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why are you sorry about that?
I'm not sorry about that, but I just feel like they cut to a shot of an exterior of Skinner's house. It looked the exact same to me.
Interesting. I didn't notice, but I believe you.
But I'm sure that stuff will change over the years.
Yeah. This next line is like very representative of who Marge is as a person, and I think it's funny in a unique, like, to Marge sort of way. Because she basically observes that there's something exciting happening, and it's like in a way that you're like, oh, we should go check it out, but then she follows that by saying, well, I guess we'll just have to read about it in tomorrow's paper. And they're like right there. I mean, they're like across the street from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody is like, why can't we see it now?
Well, it's not really on our walking route.
But everybody is already taken off. Like, Marge is left by herself on the route. So she does, in fact, follow the crowd, and she finds herself in front of the Fortune Mega Store, which is having a grand opening celebration. And Homer shows up again, and he's sipping champagne, to which Marge is like, where'd you get that?
I got it from Noodles.
It is a clown.
Is this around the same time that, I think this is around the same time that the Mega Mall by us opened up too, Grapevine Mills?
It 100% is, yes. I was actually going to say that very same thing is, you and I experienced a kind of version of this, and actually, one of the big things in that mall, the Grapevine Mills Mall, when it first opened, was the Virgin Mega Store. Which, going back to the director's commentary and, like I said, the IMDb commentary, Arthur Fortune, the billionaire we're going to meet here in just a moment, is actually based on Richard Branson, who is the owner of Virgin Records. That he's kind of also parodied along with other, what they were calling Thrillionaires at the time, and that was something that was actually coined in an article, I believe, that Schwartzwelder read, or it came up in the writer's room. Somehow it got into Schwartzwelder's mind because they wrote this entire character around the idea that he was this Thrillionaire, which is basically these bored billionaires, millionaires who are seeking adventure. Those are the people that like popularize like climbing Everest and things of that nature.
Yeah, excite us by catching Loch Ness Monster. But he's gonna ask for $3.50.
But yeah, we had the Grapevine Mills Mall open here. Man, Google that real quick, or I'm gonna Google that real quick and find out what year that opened.
I'm pretty sure it came up right after before this episode. What?
October 30th, 1997 is when Grapevine Mills opened. And we said that this episode happened a couple years after, but that still shows that those are very popular in the late 90s. It was becoming, and like that was such a huge deal. I remember, people, it was nuts when you'd first go there. There was lines everywhere, and it was like the first place that really had more, like other malls had like a movie theater. But, this place has, currently it has a Legoland inside of it and an aquarium that used to be
it had that whole huge arcade.
Yes, GameWorks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that my mom and I were on a vacation in Florida around the Fort Lauderdale area, and there's a place called Sawgrass Mills. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and that mall was fancy, and it had a rainforest cafe, and that was the first time I'd ever even seen one of those. And then when we came home, it was like a year or two later, and they announced Grapevine Mills. And like, oh my gosh, I know that chain. And I was so excited. So these malls were a big deal back then, peeps.
Yeah. Funny enough, I didn't actually ever eat at the Rainforest Cafe until not recently, but like within the last 4 years, I'd say. I'd been by there a bunch and seen all the animatronic, rainforest stuff, but, I'd never actually eaten there, and yeah, it wasn't great, and it was very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's what this whole, mega store concept is based on, though Marge is just not understanding it. All of this fuss over a store?
Hey, it's not just a store, it's a mega store. Mega means good, and store means thing.
That's a very simple but close to correct explanation.
Yep.
But yeah, this is where you can see that there's something for everyone in this this thing. First of all, there's lots of escalators, so I mean that's good for Homer in general. But one of my favorite ones is, well, first Homer actually scratches himself on a camcorder that shows up all over monitors all over the mall. But my favorite one is you see Dolph Nelson and Jimbo coming out of the shoplifting department, where they've basically declared, like, it's so convenient, I'm going to do all my shoplifting here from now on.
Yeah. But then Marge, dagger in the heart.
Ooh,
the next scene, she's looking at something and she goes, this is so much nicer than the Quickie Marts.
And you can actually hear before you see him, but Apu starts crying or whimpering, really, and he's, like, literally standing right behind Marge.
I'm sorry, but it really is.
Yeah, I know, but still.
Poor Apu.
It's honestly kind of sad. I mean, like, in like a legitimate setting outside of a cartoon universe, something like that would be detrimental to a store like the Quickie Mart.
Oh, yeah, that place is out of business. But I like this next bit here with Homer and money. It was very quick and funny.
Oh my goodness. Again, it goes to show, like, how much money does Homer make where he's just handing out hundos, like, left and right, but then also needs dollars a minute.
That's why he has so much money.
That's true, yeah. But Bart basically says, hey, Dad, give me $50. I gotta buy some things. Better make it 100.
Mm-hmm. And hands him the money.
And Lisa's like, yeah, me too.
Hmm?
And Marge is, like, ready to complain. She's like, Homer, don't you think you're spoiling the kids? Mm-hmm. And, like, she's cut off as Homer just sticks money in her face, so she, like, takes it.
Yep.
Alright, so another thing, I guess I got more from the commentary than I realized, but another thing that they talked about on the commentary that I thought was really, really funny, and they said that a lot of people missed this joke, but Otto is at a music listening station, and which was very popular. I mentioned the Virgin record store at the Grapevine Mills Mall. That was one of my favorite things to do, is they had this giant wall where they would basically have all the new release CDs. I know, this was before streaming, but when you bought CDs at the time, they had, like, this entire wall where you could essentially listen to, like, samples or sometimes complete songs from the new album, and, like, on these shared headphones, which in, like, today's world is kind of disgusting, but hey, it is what it is. Otto, I'm sorry, is listening to this so-called new music, but he's like, man, all of this stuff is ripping off Judas Priest. I said that weird. Judas Priest.
Oh.
Do you understand why every song might sound like Judas Priest to him?
Because he's high?
No, because he's still wearing his own headphones.
I wasn't even paying attention to that.
And he puts the store's headphones on over his own headphones, and that was very much an intentional joke by the Simpsons writers. But they said that for whatever reason, that one tends to be missed by a lot of people, and I'll admit, I didn't catch it till they pointed it out.
You're just so used to seeing him with headphones on that you don't notice that, like, slight little
But yeah, so he would be listening to Judas Priest through his own headset, and that's why all these new bands sound just like them.
Wow. Nice little gag there, Simpsons.
So that's literally the last thing I'm going to say about the director's commentary, but I guess what wasn't very abundant was definitely important today. We all learned something today. And a podcast.
What's more important than Judas Priest right now is talking about the greatest movie of all time, The Postman.
With director's commentary by, oh shit, I'm blanking on who it is.
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, that's right.
And he actually appears on the screen that Lisa's watching while she's trying to listen to the director's commentary.
You think that it's, like, part of the DVD or whatever, and then, like, he actually, and he's like, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I do not know what I was thinking here, but I mean, Field of Dreams was good, wasn't it? Made us all believe again?
Oh, poor Mr. Costner. He tries so hard.
Oh, thanks. You're sweet to say that.
Where are you?
And that's when Kevin Costner himself actually steps out from behind the TV. He's not on the DVD at all. He's actually there in the store. I'm back here. Hi. Will you bring me a sandwich, please? No crusts.
And then Bart flattens a penny on a kid's train. I didn't even know that could work.
So, this is funny because there is always a big rumor back in the day if you, like, flatten pennies or coins on train tracks, that could derail the train. But I believe that is largely urban legend, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And I will say that the person that taught me to crush coins on train tracks was my father, and he actually works for the Burlington Northern and Santa Fe Railroad. So I felt like it was a all right thing to do if he's like, yeah, it's fine. Put like 7 on there.
But Bart totally derails this little kiddie train with a penny.
It totally goes in like way big pile up more than it should.
Yeah.
Mr. Burns makes his first appearance at this point. Or did I jump ahead a little bit? I think I missed Comic Book Guy. Well,
Comic Book Guy gets stuck because of the way one of the train cars hits him. And I think he even says, like, oh no, not again.
Yeah, that's what it is, right, yeah. But that's when Mr. Burns shows up, and he's actually, he was trying to drive through, but there's so many people blocking him up that he actually gets out a cattle prod and starts trying to zap his way through the store.
Cocoa in the same store? What's next to talking banana? And then he gets like happy.
He's like around. Optimistic that maybe he just invented that into the world or said that and it's going to appear. But Smithers has to pointingly let him know, I don't see one, sir.
Of course not. The very notion of a talking banana is absurd.
And you can visibly see that like Burns gets disappointed here, but then when he goes back with but still, he gets that like little light in his eye.
Excellent.
But just then, the lights dim, a bunch of commotion occurs. Mayor Quimby makes an announcement. Attention, good shoppers of Springfield. Someone very special has just entered the store. The world's most popular billionaire.
Oh, please. All this fuss for little old me.
Please welcome the owner of Fortune Mega Stores, Arthur Fortune.
What?
And Burns, like, legitimately thought that he was going to be named the most popular billionaire for some reason, despite the fact that he's never been likable, and doesn't like other people. But he's genuinely shocked when somebody else is announced, and, Arthur Fortune comes out with a lot of fanfare. It's like this big old production, and he starts talking about all the exciting things he's done, such as he's, boogie boarded down Mount Everest, for instance.
Ooh.
He climbed Niagara Falls.
Oh.
And just last month, I knocked out Muhammad Ali.
And Ali never sees it coming. He just opens the door, and Arthur's sitting there in boxing gear.
He gets sucker punched. Yeah. The complete. And also, at this point in 1997, Ali is not a boxer anymore.
Yeah.
Like, he's, very much retired at this point.
And even Marge is like, oh, how awful.
But this Springfield is the biggest thrill ever. The opening of my 112th store. Because that's memorable. But this is where Arthur kind of goes off into more, just showmanship. He even announces his accountant's going to be sad today because he's got too much money, so he wants to give some of it away. And we get a quick sequence where he's like, who wants $1? And Homer's immediately like, I do.
Ha! Alright, what's your name, young man?
I don't know. Just give me the $1.
Well, I hope this starts you on your way to a great fortune. Now, who wants a $2?
Ooh, I do. And, you can see Arthur, didn't expect that to happen, but he's like, it just keeps happening over and over, and finally Arthur's like, you know what? To heck with it. And he just throws money out of his hot air balloon that's inside this mall.
That was for everyone.
And that actually gets the crowd chanting, Fortune, 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 as they all scramble madly to grab loose dollar bills.
That man's totally insane.
And just then, Ned Flanders there, he actually picks up $100 bill.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, this is going right into the old poor box.
Not so fast, old chum.
Zip, 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 zip. He cattle prods him. Again, because Burns isn't rich enough is the joke.
Mm-hmm.
But Burns is upset and confused how that, well, I'll let you take the line. It sounds like one to say.
Oh, that flamboyant top. Or maybe it's fop. The cursor's in the way that Miles put in the script. He got them eating out of his hands.
Well, you have to admit he is charismatic, sir. And also, I just realized that Smithers would probably prefer a flamboyant top.
Oh, bosh. Anyone can lead a conga line. Hop to it, Smithers.
And they actually start, or Smithers starts single-handedly trying to start conga.
Conga, conga.
We love Monty Burns more.
Burns
Yeah,
more.
that's what it was.
Conga
Yeah.
like you mean it. Please don't make me shock you.
And he's like, Smithers is having to do a one-man dance. We get this dope shot of Mr. Burns sitting in his chair with, I want to say it's a brandy, watching the news, but like the angle, I don't know what it is, the angle, the zoom, the way Mr. Burns looks in this shot is really cool.
Yeah.
He's actually watching the news, however, and Kent Brockman announces, Springfield is still swooning from the whirlwind fist of playful plutocrat Arthur Fortune.
Oh, the man has no idea how to behave a billionaire. Where's the dignity? Where's the contempt for the common man?
This new breed of fun-loving billionaire is a welcome change from the classic, joyless miser brooding in his cavernous mansion.
Bah! Bah! Bah!
Grasping a glass of brandy with his thin, claw-like fingers. And you actually see Burns kind of smiles for a moment, and a superior smirk on his greedy, soulless face.
I thought I had everything. Money, good looks, strong, sharp teeth. But what's it all worth when nobody likes you?
I like you, sir.
Are you still here?
Oh, poor Smithers.
And that's the end of Act 1.
That does bring us to the end of our first act, but we open up Act 2 at the power plant, where Homer is actually juggling plutonium rods. To be fair, they're in some sort of, like, glass chamber, and he's got, like, the protective arms, like, gloves that are connected to the box that they're in themselves. But then when Mr. Burns comes in behind him, he does, in fact, drop the rods when he's startled.
He says his name, but he has to look at a notebook to read it.
He once again does recognize his own employee.
I need your help. I want to be loved.
I see. Well, I'll need some beer.
I want you to look at me the way I saw you look at Arthur Fortune.
Oh, Arthur Fortune.
Yes, that's the look I'm looking for. What would make you and your slovenly kind look at me that way?
Well, you don't have to call me slovenly.
Yes, exactly. That's the kind of pointer I need. Tell me more, fatty. I love the Homer, like, well, I'll need some beer.
Yeah, he's willing to love Burns however he wants. He just needs to get drunk first.
Mm-hmm.
So, Burns saw how well giving away money worked for Fortune, so he decides he's going to throw silver dollars off of the top of a tall building. But obviously this is a terrible idea, and we find out immediately so when Lenny and Carl walk by, and one of the dollars gets lodged, like, dead center in Lenny's forehead, and it does not look good. Like, it is in there.
Get it out!
So Carl grabs the silver dollar, but as soon as he pulls it out, it starts spouting even more blood.
Put it back!
Like, crams it back in his cranium.
That was a close one. Want to go bowling?
Maybe you should see a doctor about that coin in your brain.
Maybe you should mind your own business.
And then when a woman walks by, Lenny, like, he's down, and instead of tipping his cap, he, like, pulls the coin out and bows to her, spurting blood at her as she walks by.
Afternoon, miss.
God. That whole sequence is, like, absolutely hilarious to me. And honestly, that scene and scene later where Lenny and Carl are just referenced by Homer are two of the funnier scenes in this episode.
And to reiterate, this wasn't Mr. Burns' idea. This was Homer's idea about, like, how Arthur gave away money, so they should too. But I don't know whose idea it was to use silver dollars.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was Mr. Burns' idea, since he would be the only one that knew those existed of the two of them, and then Homer just wasn't smart enough to like change his mind.
Yeah.
But we cut back to Mr. Burns' office. He's actually browsing a magazine called Billionaires Beat, and he's just completely upset because he didn't quite... I guess giving away silver dollars or lodging one in Lenny's head didn't have the impact he hoped.
It didn't have the impact for Lenny. I can't believe it. I'm still not among the 100 most popular billionaires. I'm behind Adam Sandler, for God's sake.
Well, how about donating money to charity? Lots of crazy old coots do that.
A charitable donation, eh? Well, there's a first time for everything.
But then he opens his, like, giant desk drawer and he has, like, giant checks ready to go.
Take this check for $200,000 to the Springfield hospital.
And he has to fold it about 20-something times before it'll actually fit in his pocket.
But then, like, as he starts walking out the door, the check starts unfolding in his back pocket. It's a very funny animation shot here. And if it's anybody's pants other than Homer's, it would have busted them.
It's true, yeah.
Now there's nothing to do but sit back and wait for the kudos to roll in.
We kind of have like a roll time where we see night comes in and crickets are chirping, and Mr. Burns actually presses a button for cricket poison, for what it's worth. But then later at the hospital, Mr. Burns actually shows up kind of angry.
Where are my kudos?
And the reception looks at her book. No, we don't have a record of you giving the hospital any money, Mr. Burns. Oh, but we did get a very generous donation from a Mr. Homer Simpson this afternoon.
What?
He punches and he starts kicking a statue of Homer hugging children. Like they already cast it and planted in the hospital.
Yeah. They spent all that $200,000 pretty quick. It's not fair. It's not fair. Morphine, please. His hands hurt.
See that Mr. Burns once again eats dinner at the Simpsons' house, which you'd think Marge would actually object to after the last time he'd shown up in their home.
The last, 3 times?
Yeah. Wait a minute, because I brought the check? They named a wing after me? Oh, he must be mad.
Well, I will be when the morphine wears off, but until then...
He's like dancing all week. Oh, gee, I feel bad. If people knew that the real Monty Burns and not the silver dollar throwing morphine addict you become, they might like you. Lisa chimes in, yeah, if you want to change your image, you've got to get your face out there. And then she looks at Mr. Burns' face and follows up, on the radio.
That's it! The radio! I'll go on the most popular program of the day. I assume that's still Don McNeil and his Breakfast Club?
I forgot to Google Don McNeil, but I assume he died in the 40s. We'll go with that. If not the 40s, the 60s. But yeah, he's definitely an old-time radio host, for sure. But Bart explains that he's got to get with the times, man. Jerry Rude and the Bathroom Bunch is what's hot now.
Oh, I don't think Mr. Burns would like that show.
But Mr. Burns is actually offended that Marge implies that he wouldn't fit in.
What's the matter? I think I'm not hip? I don't have enough voodoo?
Everybody's like staring at him blankly. And for what it's worth, I have no idea if you said that correctly, but that's kind of the point. Like, he just said something that everybody's like,
voodoo? Yeah.
So we cut to the radio station where we see a very, loudmouth and frankly rude, radio DJ named Jerry Rude, and he's interviewing Knick Knack and Paddywhack, who are a pair of conjoined twins, who have a show on Fox.
Of course, because everybody had a show on Fox back then.
So Homer's kind of there coaching him, and he's like, all right, Mr. Burns, if you get in trouble, I wrote down a list of jokes with the differences between white people and black people.
Oh, no.
It worked so well for him at the comedy club.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Burns goes into the room, and immediately he's greeted by Jerry Rude, who, for what it's worth, this is clearly a parody of Howard Stern, but The Simpsons actually wanted the real Howard Stern to come on the show and do this. They reached out to him and he declined. Apparently, Howard Stern is relatively known for not really doing these types of things. He's just not interested in that type of side work, I guess, or whatever. But he was asked and he turned them down, so they created this character instead.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, right away, you can tell that Mr. Burns is in over his head here. He's starting, and Rude's like, alright, let's get this geezer out quick so we can bring in the lesbian gladiators. Which, to be fair, that does sound like an actual episode of the Howard Stern Show.
Yeah, it does. But Homer's talking to him. He's even like, you see, white people have names like Lenny, whereas people have names like Carl.
And then he laughs, like, exuberantly, while the two women just walk away.
That's because zoom.
He's like doing the it's going over their heads gesture, which I absolutely love. They just don't get it.
But it's clever too because it's like very select audience, but it's also a select audience of millions of people, so it kind of works on both sides.
It's very funny. But Burns is going to be a good sport here today, Rich. I think you'll find that he's ready to have some fun.
Now, Mr. Rude, I just want you to know I'm a good sport, so if you want to make fun of my legendary love of cashews, you have at it.
Alright, how many times a day do you go to the can?
Oh, about 40, I suppose. When are we going to air?
We're on the air right now, Skeletor.
What?
Question 2. How long is your wiener? Seriously.
Great heavens, what kind of radiola show is this?
How about this? When was your first gay experience?
Oh, well, when I was 6, my father took me on a picnic. That was a gay old time. Oh, I ate my share of wieners that day.
So Rude goes into some more Howard-esque style of commentary on this. He even coughs under his breath while calling Mr. Burns a queer, which, again, this was 1999 for what it's worth. But he then goes into, ever murder anybody?
Murder? Well, mistakes have been made.
Monty, I hear you're a pretty flatulent guy. Any comments on that?
Oh, now see here!
And then this is where it just breaks down entirely, because Rude just goes into a series of fart sound effects, and the more Mr. Burns tries to fight and to protest, the worse it gets. It just keeps getting louder and louder, wetter sounding farts, till finally Mr. Burns actually collapses on the middle of the floor, and Rude doesn't even seem concerned. Instead, he's like, don't worry, folks, he's not dead. In fact, I still hear some faint sounds of life.
And the script messed this up, but like when Mr. Burns is pleading to the listeners, it's, oh wait, no, they did get it right. I like that he says, most of the sounds you are now hearing are not being made by me.
Yeah.
And I love the choice of the word most there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Burns on the way home pretty much realizes that didn't go well, but I love Homer's response. He's like, good thing those lesbians knew CPR.
Oh, what's the use? I'll never be a popular, beloved billionaire like Arthur Fortune.
Oh, Arthur Fortune. Do you know what that fabulous man just did? He gave the Springfield Zoo 2 male pandas, and got them to mate successfully.
And a stunt like that impresses people?
Oh, yeah, and I'm not easily impressed. Oh, wow, a blue car!
If a couple of Chinese bamboozlers can win people's hearts, I'm going to bring them something that man has searched for since the dawn of time.
A sober Irishman?
Even rarer.
And we see that Mr. Burns and Homer are now in a helicopter landing in Loch Ness.
A lot of quick, good jokes in that little scene.
Oh, man, really fun stuff. And in some ways, I almost feel like if they would have gotten Howard Stern, same concept. They would have, in some ways, could have actually taken away from that scene, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like Mr. Burns shined there because they wrote the Rude character so generic. Versus if you actually had Howard Stern on that, I feel like, I don't know, that might even
take
be distracting.
attention away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Either way, that does bring us to the end of our second act, and we now open up our third act in Loch Ness, in Scotland, where we actually see groundskeeper Willie, I guess, is using this opportunity to visit home while set up camp with Professor Frink. Homer's there as well. Do you really think you can capture the Loch Ness Monster? I mean, he's eluded Leonard Nimoy and Peter Graves.
Peter Graves couldn't find ugly at a rat elixir.
We get Professor Frink here, who's just getting the equipment out of the crate.
Let's see now. We have the monsterometer, flipper finder, or waxoscope, which is important for the looking and finding.
Heck, the whole town's turned out. I've never seen them so excited.
Is that Mayor Quimby?
I don't know. I can't do Willie. I'm just going with it. There's a lot of voices here, folks. I'm Scottish.
Hey, Willie, that old couple looks just like you.
Aye, 'tis my pa and my ma and pa. They own a tavern hereabouts. They still have the same pool table on which I was conceived, born, and educated.
So, you're back, son.
Aye.
I suppose you'll be leaving soon.
Aye. And they never embrace or shake hands or anything. They just kind of shrug and they both walk away.
So I'm sure Miles knows about it, but they've mentioned Willie's father before in the past. I think one time he said that he had been hanged in like an earlier season, and then in Who Shot Mr. Burns, he said something else about his parents. So like I know there's always this question of where Willie's actually from, which part of Scotland, but it's also like, are his parents actually dead, or was that just a metaphorical thing? I mean, we just saw his father, so I guess not.
But they really didn't seem to have a relationship, so was that his real father? I don't know. But no, they do actually talk about that on IMDb. In this episode, Willie's parents appear. However, in the episode I Love Lisa, it is mentioned that Willie's father was hanged for stealing pigs. It's noted here that it is likely that Willie lied about his father being hanged.
Ah.
I know why they decided that was the correct...
They added that.
Yeah.
They added that last sentence there, and that just really doesn't lie.
Yeah, I guess he could be exaggerating, yeah.
Maybe he was hanged upside down by his toes.
That's what it is. They just have a different meaning of hanged.
Maybe he was talking about under the skirt.
But we actually cut back to Homer, who is now connected to some of Frink's equipment, and he's in like one of those old-fashioned diving suits with a hard helmet and everything. But we see him walk into Burns is already kind of demanding results.
Where's my monster, Tubby? What do people think I'm paying you for?
To work in your power plant?
You're not paying me anything.
You kidnapped me. I remember it distinctly with the grabbing, duct taping, tennis ball in the mouth. It hurt me.
The beast looks something like this.
And he takes out a little, like, stuffed animal plush of the Loch Ness Monster that has a shirt and a hat on it. Like, it looks like a sombrero of sorts. And he's like, without the saucy t-shirt.
And his t-shirt says Macarena Monster.
That's it, yep. Oh, man. So, this is where we actually see Homer is ready to go. We see him walk into the nest, or the loch, excuse me. I forgot which one of those words were the correct word for the body of water.
That word means what you think it means.
Out like a lot of time passes, and we finally cut across, and you can see Homer actually just walked all the way across the bottom of the lake, and he's at the pub across from it playing pinball, still with the diving suit on.
Yep.
Later on that evening, we see everybody's kind of relaxing, except for Frink, who is a little concerned about something that's gathering his attention.
Oh, my great good God. Gentlemen, your attention, please. I am detecting a gigantic amphibious life form. It's 80 meters long, and it's heading this way. Oh, good Glavin, it's on my shoe. It's a small frog. Just get off. Just get off. Get up. Get up.
I love the explanation for this, though, because he's like, he was using the wrong machine.
This isn't the monstrometer, it's the frog exaggerator.
Because you sure needed to pack that. But then Burns points out...
stock of the town.
And you cut back to see the only 5 people in town who are by no means laughing. They look, if anything, mildly annoyed. Don't worry, Mr. Burns. We're going to find that monster, no matter how long it takes. And he's actually Homer at this point is wearing a kilt, and you can tell he's liking it. Besides, I'm getting kind of used to wearing a kilt. Can you believe I'm a size 4? And he actually spins around, causing it to, but then it's very obvious he's not wearing underwear.
I don't think you're supposed to wear underwear in a kilt.
Woo!
Ark!
Aye.
Oh, it's pointless hunting for an animal that has 24 miles of water to hide in. Drain the lake.
What?
You heard me. Deploy the Delocinator.
And with all their high-tech, fancy frog exaggeration machines that they have at their disposal, all they have to drain the lock is the a single hand pump that you see Frink attempting to use.
But he's going at it. You think you would want Willie to do it, but I guess Willie wouldn't want to because it's his hometown.
He knows
apparently.
what's about to happen. Yeah. Using as the water line lowers, Burns is looking out over with the binoculars, and he actually starts to see the head of what he thinks is a monster. But Willie immediately corrects him that that's just the old homecoming float for Loch Ness High School.
And it says Stomp Aberdeen on it. And I love that Homer's like, Aberdeen rules!
But, just a few seconds after they'd announced this first monster, we actually see a very real-life Loch Ness monster that actually crushes that float with a single flipper, so it's significantly larger than the float was. And he lets out, a mighty, T-Rex style from Jurassic Park roar.
And then I love that Homer's holding the plush in his hand, and he's looking back and forth between the real thing and the plush. Where he's like, oh my gosh, it's him!
He has to double check, yeah. But, Mr. Burns decides that if Willie, Frink, and Homer aren't going to overpower it, he's going to do it himself.
This myself.
Rolls up his jacket and tie, or his sleeve. He takes off his jacket and tie and rolls up his sleeves.
I really wish we could have seen this scene. I know
that's kind of the point, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the comedy's in the fact that you don't see anything, but don't you want to see how this plays out?
Oh, 100% I want to see how this plays out. Yeah, no doubt. Basically, you immediately cut from the rolling up his sleeves to the monster is now tied up and dangling from the helicopter. And and inside you can even see Willie's complimenting him. Wow, that was amazing, Mr. Burns.
I was a little worried when he swallowed me, but, well, you know the rest. And now for my triumphant return to Springfield. And when he says, you know the rest, everyone just kind of looks like, no, we don't.
Yeah, it's like, what? So we see the arrival of the Loch Ness Monster at Springfield, where they're greeted with a bunch of fanfare, very much like the beginning with the mall opening. In this case, Kent Brockman is there, this time reporting on monster fever that has gripped Springfield by the throat. And it's all thanks to one man. Montgomery Burns has captured not only a legendary monster, but also our hearts. And by the way, girls, he's single.
Single? Well, this is the Selma test.
She gives herself a little breath spray before walking out. But then Mr. Burns comes out on stage where they have set up a presentation of the Loch Ness Monster.
Thank you, one. And now, presenting the 9th wonder of the world, the 8th being Gomer Pyle's heavenly singing voice. At you, the Loch Ness Monster.
And that's when we open the curtains to reveal an aquarium with Nessie inside. And it seems like Mr. Burns is getting everything he wanted in this episode because the crowd chants Monty, Monty, Monty. But that's when the flashes start going off on the cameras and the monster actually raises its head in the tank. And Mr. Burns is kind of like, no, stop, you're going to unraise the beast, don't do it. But Nessie is way into it. Nessie is basically in 1999 what every girl on Instagram is today.
Well, I think it's going to go the King Kong route where the flashes are going to enrage the monster. And in fact, The cameras do enrage the monster, Miles.
it kind of sets her off, doesn't it?
I'm saying the monster is Mr. Burns.
Yeah, nice. I do want to point out here that, Homer actually, I want to point out that Homer actually has probably the smartest thing he has to say, like, in this entire thing. And he basically explains to Mr. Burns that, you want people to love you, and you blew it with this insane rampage that you just had. But you know what? To be loved, you have to be nice to people every day. But to be hated, you don't have to do squat.
Well, I want to point out in a little better description that the flashes got to Mr. Burns, and he stumbled around and knocked stuff over and set stuff on fire. Then everyone ran away screaming. So
he was literally the monster.
Shoot. Yeah. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, you're right. We should have clarified. He was literally the monster before that.
So then Homer tells Mr. Burns all that, and Burns responds with, perhaps you're right. I got so swept up over the notion of being liked, I completely forgot who I am. I'm a selfish old crank, and that fits me like a seal.
And Nessie is actually, like, affectionate with Mr. Burns here, and, like, they
got close over him capturing her, I guess.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So Homer wonders, what are we going to do with our friend here? Throw him in the dumpster?
Oh, no. I really give the lovable scamp a good home.
So we cut to Las Vegas, or at least the Vegas Town Casino, where Nessie is wearing a vest complete with name tag, and I love that it has their hometown, Scotland, because that's legit what they do at casinos when they put that on name tags. I just think that was really funny. But Nessie and Burns are sitting there by the giant slot machine that Homer pulls, and it comes up with bar, lemon.
Tough luck, Simpson.
Come on, Nessie, one more pool. Okay. You want a shrimp cocktail?
No.
Yeah, they're not so great. That brings us to the end of our third act. It just ends like, honestly, I love the ending though. It's fun. I mean, and they don't really have to ever visit Vegas again if they don't want to. So we don't have to, we can assume Nessie just, works and successful there.
Yep.
The only other notable thing about this episode is during the credit sound at the end, instead of the shh, Lisa actually says the line again, "Ooh, I hear this really sucks." And that brings us to the end of our episode. Monty Can't Buy Me Love. Richie, is there anything else that you or that book of yours want to talk about?
I just want to say, because I wrote the note right before Homer said it, so I want to reiterate that Mr. Burns would not be such a likable character, especially on these rewatches, if he was a likable character. Like, his disdain for the common man,
as he puts it,
and his phrasing of every single thing. Like, I was okay with Mr. Burns, like, on my younger years watching the show, but he's one of my favorite characters now. Him and Ned, I've said numerous times, have, like, really shot up on my favorite character list.
Which is funny because those two are essentially polar opposites, if you think about it. Like, Burns is funny because he's so evil, and Ned is funny is because he's so pure.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just, I don't know, there's something really, really fun about just listening to Burns talk and watching the way he acts. And, like, this episode will not be on my top list. It won't be anywhere up in there, but it was just fun to see the stuff with Mr. Burns. And I want to see that freaking fight with Nessie. Come on.
I don't know that I can say this one will be in my top 5 either. I think it'll be considered, at least briefly, but there are so many rock-solid episodes in this one, it's hard to say. But I will say that this one does have a very special place in my heart, and I believe you may remember this. My first ever glass pipe that I ever bought was a small little purple pipe that I bought at a head shop in Denton, Texas, and it was, I named it Nessie, because it reminded me of the color, basically, that they drew Nessie, in this episode. It broke years ago, but that was my first glass pipe, so, this one gets me in the stoner reels.
And you would eventually go to Vegas and replace it with a bigger purple one named Grimace.
That's true. That's a whole other, we'll get there eventually, I'm sure. I've actually probably already talked about it like 3 times. Again, stoner.
Probably.
But yeah, that's all I've got for this one, Rich. Why don't you say about where people can follow us and such?
Well, that was a great send-off there, Miles. You can follow Miles on Twitter at Mr. Most Days Off. You can follow me on Twitter at TheWiz_Kid23. Most importantly, you can follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY. You can also check out Miles on pretty much every social media platform. He's got a cool little logo, and he's Mr. Most Days Off everywhere you can possibly find him. And he loves everything.
Man, guys, thank you so much for listening to this. If you have this far, that's amazing. And for downloading, sharing, liking, subscribing. All the people on Patreon, can't thank you enough for your support there. And again, we're now almost 10 seasons deep. We just got a couple of more episodes to go to wrap up 10 seasons, over 4 years of this ridiculous nonsense. So, again, all I can say to that is thank you so much. Richie and I will be back again next week, and we will be reviewing the episode, They Saved Lisa's Brain.
What's going to come up in that episode, Miles? A talking banana? Huh?
That'd be ridiculous.
Of course, the notion of a talking banana is absurd. But maybe.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.